No intro.
Nope.
Never has there been one.
And there never shall be one.
I mean, if there was gonna be one, I would say that, this is COVideos.
Right.
Where we watch films, classic and modern, for your quarantainment.
Yes.
Which is really, remember, now I understand. I don't feel so bad. All these kids going back to school.
Oh my gosh. I saw that post that you posted.
Is there a grave digging class?
Yeah, seriously.
and
Okay.
Do you get credit if you don't finish?
Well, I remember.
Oh, you go. I guess I didn't have anything to say.
Hey, sorry.
I wasn't building up to anything.
Go
No.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I mean, I remember being in high school and passing time, being crowded and busy, but that was like a narrow hallway full of high school kids, like just chock full.
You always focus on like the smallest minutia of whatever is put in front of you as pertains to an issue, and not the larger issue, which is just a bunch of people just throwing their hands up and going,
No, I get that too. I do. And like it's and I think I can't believe that the student who took and posted that picture got
that'll change.
Yeah.
It's going to have to change, right?
Well,
absolutely. There is already an outcry. It hasn't been 24 hours. So that's...
She's honestly concerned about everybody.
Yeah, well, she's suspended. Actually, you know what? Why change it, though? Good. Yeah, okay. Well, mission accomplished.
Yeah, right.
Everyone, get your camera phones out.
Right?
Pretend Beyonce's here.
Right?
That's an old reference. Which I was thinking about the other day. See, I can go anywhere. Remember when Lady Gaga and Beyonce were doing camera phones and stuff?
Video phone? Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, that's less syllables.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, this is the future.
Right. Yes.
It didn't really last long.
No,
They both had other roads to walk.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But I thought it was like I guess Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney only did one song together. Oh, let's not get racial, especially where we're going.
Oh, man.
You won the toss. But guess what?
What?
I'm going first.
Okay.
You know why?
Because it's been too long since you've gone first?
Yeah. Isn't it the Tom Stoppard play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, where Guildenstern is, maybe Rosencrantz is flipping a coin and he gets 137 heads or whatever? Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be a comment on, I don't know, a lot
Life
of things.
Isn't so random as you think it is or something like that?
Well, not when you're in a play.
True.
But we are not in a play, though it may feel like that sometimes.
Nope.
And so I'm breaking out the frame.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about mine first, because I don't... no 8-sided die controls my destiny. Yeah, and it's an 8-sided die, too, which is kind of dumb, but whatever.
Yeah,
That's what I had on hand. I want to talk real quick about a news story that is pertinent to what's going on.
Okay.
And before, when I was interrupted, I was going to talk about how, like the U.S. government, like just about everybody, we're predicting an end to this, and it hasn't ended. Now, that doesn't mean that people are staying quarantined.
Right.
But they really should. They really should. And so I think out of some form of protest, like to the die, we're going to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. So now this can be outreach, and this can be not only you hearing us talk about movies that are supposed to be good and maybe we don't like them,
right.
But also you could be reminded, it's still a thing.
COVID is still happening.
It's still a thing.
Yeah.
We're, that's a bad example.
What's a bad example?
This is the yellow ribbon around the oak tree.
Whoa.
That's there until Johnny or whoever comes home.
Uh-huh.
But not quite that, though.
No, not
quite. Little different. It'd be like a COVID-colored...
What is a COVID-colored? Like, are they the colors
if you replicated a lot of COVID in serum, it would probably just be sort of, organically colored, or maybe just white.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So maybe it's a white ribbon.
Right.
So what I wanted to talk about was
the
fact that there's been a case in the courts, a challenge to the old paramount consent decrees, which were passed over 70 years ago by the courts, federal courts, Justice Department, whatever, to keep the studios in Hollywood from having majority shares or controlling movie theaters.
Oh, wow.
ostensibly to, continue to allow there to be competition.
Yes.
Which is why we're taking them away, because nobody cares about competition anymore.
Yeah.
It's capitalism, baby. It's late-stage capitalism.
Yes.
And it kept studios from, say, forcing theater chains to accept movies like blocks. You would say, we've got a big picture, but then we've also got a bunch of B or C pictures, which you don't really want. Mm-hmm. And I agree. That has not really been a problem for a while. But in the past couple years, we've seen studios lean on movie theaters.
Yes, we have.
I have a couple friends who either work at or run movie theaters, and they talk about how they have to run, Avengers for 12 weeks or whatever it is, or longer.
Certain amount of weeks, otherwise they won't get the new films.
Yeah, well, they won't get it at all if they don't agree to run it for a certain time.
Right.
And then often it comes with, because Disney owns like 60% of Hollywood, it comes with, and you're going to take this one too. Mm-hmm. And a movie which they're like, well, that would just run for a week or two because it's clearly going to bomb. It's Tiffany Haddish film or something like that. I don't know. It's just my punching bag.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, no, we don't want to take that for 12 weeks as well, but you don't have any choice. And so they affect their programming.
Yeah, and they ultimately could end up losing
Now,
money.
if the studios just out and out own the theaters, which is possible because this also comes at a time when the movie theater business is pretty much kaput.
It's not looking
It
great.
will be kaput if we can't gather in public anytime soon.
Yeah.
So then is it just Disney Cineplex, and then they're just showing you only Disney films?
I hate that. And then
see how that's bad for the industry?
They can charge whatever they want.
They can always charge whatever they want, but here's where the invisible hand of capitalism does work. The market will set the price, right? Uh-huh. Because they can't charge $20 a head because people won't go to movies, and that's the end of movies. Movies in a theater, that industry is already in trouble because of Netflix. And supposedly they're repealing these because the kind of businesses that the traditional studios have to compete with are businesses like Hulu, Amazon, Netflix. Except for Netflix, a lot of these streaming services are owned by media conglomerates that also own studios. So it's Peter trying to rob Paul here.
Yeah.
But it's because, that competition. And I'm like, that's not competition. Just because I go to the local creamery and have like a delicious ice cream cone doesn't mean I don't have ice cream in the fridge.
Right.
Which is melting. It should be in the freezer.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's just a bunch of bad faith arguments. It's all motivated by greed. It's all motivated by hungry companies like Disney who have to own everything. And also they are kind of bailing things out. But if your friend, loses his job and you put him to work for you, it doesn't mean you're a slave. It just means you're helping him out.
Right.
But they are trying to take advantage of the downturn of the movie industry to come out of this owning everything. And it's not good. It's bad news.
I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Is there anything that's going to try to stop this at all?
No, who would stop this?
Not our government.
I don't think Reed Hastings cares either way. I mean, he's busy greenlighting Bright 5 or whatever.
I hate it. I hate everything about it. I don't like it
if it leads, look, I don't know how it would, because competition doesn't, or excuse me, a lack of competition doesn't lead to good stuff usually. Mm-hmm. But if it leads to better films, great, because I've not been impressed with a lot of films recently. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, we'll talk about a movie that was on the other side of this. Mm-hmm. A movie starring the guy from My Three Sons.
That's right.
And I had to remind you, that's right, I had to remind you what that was.
No, I know.
It's a movie from
Excuse me. Excuse me. I know My Three Sons. I didn't recognize him. Get it right. You can shame me, but shame me in the right way.
A man with his face so famous, they based Shazam on him.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him. It's a movie from 1944 called Double Indemnity.
Yes.
Directed by Billy Wilder. Co-written by Billy Wilder and Raymond Chandler. What a pedigree this film has.
Yes.
What happens in the film?
Well, okay, you're gonna have to help me with names because I don't remember names for this one.
I don't think it matters.
You don't think it matters? I think the main guy is Neff, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Neff is an insurance salesman, and I guess I should say that this is like told in like flashback if there's like a framing story,
like all noirs, that are any good.
And it's late at night, and he's been shot, and he is retelling this whole story. It's a magnetic cylinder recorder.
It's a dictaphone type thing.
Yeah. Anyways, what happened was he was checking up on an insurance, somebody's insurance who they were late renewing it, and met the wife, and just kind of fell head over heels for her in a way. At least he felt like he did. Was just kind of taken with her, and she was getting ideas too. She starts asking him about. He doesn't catch wise right away though. Like, she's asking him about, like, do you sell other kinds of insurance besides car insurance, and like all these things. Long story short, she ends up talking him into putting out, because I guess her husband already has life insurance, which is interesting.
So not important.
Okay, fine. Sorry. She convinces Neff to get accident insurance for her husband without her husband knowing, with the idea that, they're gonna kill him and they're gonna take the money. And this particular, I think it's called double indemnity, right? If he dies from an accident on a train, you get double the amount. So that's kind of the plan, and things don't go the way that they want them to, or at least the way that Neff wants them to.
Did all of that to leave out the second and third acts of the film?
I was trying to okay, so
no.
Okay, all right.
I mean, if you haven't seen this by now, come on, people. It's based on a novella of the same name, and the guy who wrote it, James Cain, was I think involved in like the story and the process and everything. So it's probably pretty faithful. I haven't read it. Yeah, and it stars Fred McMurray, Barbara Stanwyck as the wife that you mentioned.
Yes,
and Edward G. Robinson in a role.
Oh my God.
That he runs away with the film.
Yeah,
it's a role that honestly you wouldn't really. I mean, you have to have side characters.
Yeah,
you have to have
absolutely.
You think about like a classic. This is a classic noir, but other noirs like
Maltese Falcon.
You have to have a Gutman and a Peter Lorre type character.
Yeah, you
really don't need this character in the film. The character of I can't remember the character's name, but the Edward G. Robinson character.
Yes,
Keys. But
yes.
But he's great. Runs away with the film.
Fantastic.
There's a twist because the police are never involved in this until like the end.
Yes.
In fact, even when they kill the husband, they're just like, the cops took care of it. We never see police.
That's true.
But
that's an interesting point. Yeah.
But Keys is a claims investigator, and he takes on the role of the detective in this.
Yes. Yes, he does.
And there's an extra twist because they work together. One of the reasons that Fred McMurray, Neff, who is kind of a slime ball. He's not a good guy, which is fine. It's noir. It's angels with dirty faces.
Do you feel like he was like
Why don't you just take over?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, do you feel like he was a good guy before this, or do you think he was always
ever a good guy?
Okay.
No,
right.
He's an insurance salesman.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake. But he thinks that he can get away with this because this is his beat. Do you know what I mean? He knows what people think, and so, of course, he's going to put that to the test because Keys is his mentor and he knows all the actuarial tables and he knows everything. And but he can't. There's that one thing, that keeps bothering him.
Yes.
And eventually, of course, Edward G. Robinson gets his man.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't like this as much as I like some other noirs. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it at all. I think its construction is great.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the reasons that people cite it as, and some people say it is the greatest film noir of all time.
I would not agree with that statement.
Many of the reasons they say that, I agree with. But like Fred McMurray says, when she gives him some tea, a little rum would get this up and around. Yes. A little more there. Can you believe that you get Fred McMurray and Barbara Stanwyck, and it's just like there's just no chemistry at all.
Yeah.
I just don't feel the chemistry. And the thing about this is for him, this is kind of like, he's an insurance salesman. He's 30. He says he's 35. Mm-hmm. He never really says out and out that it's like, is this what I want to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah, but
you
that's
can feel that he
more or
kind of
less.
feels that.
Yeah.
So this is him kind of getting it over his his naggy boss and kind of getting away with something, but he's got to be getting some blowjobs. Do you know what I mean? Like he has to. You have to feel the heat, and that he would want to do this, and it's not going to be him just going, "Yeah, baby," like that. I don't feel that's not enough, at least for a modern audience. I don't think that part ages well.
I think that's
and if you look
part
at
of
something
it,
like
right?
Body Heat, you get that like William Hurt is getting his ashes hauled like crazy by this chick. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a reason that he keeps getting deeper and deeper into this.
That.
Well, put Body Heat on your
list. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, that's a thing in noir a lot, is that the guy is like being pulled in by this dame, this black widow,
right?
And I don't know. I know Barbara Stanwyck's been good in some other stuff, but it's kind of flat in this.
Yeah, I mean, she's.
Maybe that's like that that flat effect and that lack of sort of passion and emotion is kind of the problem, right? Because we learn over the course of the film that she's a climber and this is just the next rung. But
yes,
I don't know.
I don't know either. Like, I guess I would have. I think I agree with you. I would have liked a little something more with her. Like, you don't have to like be chewing the scenery or be over the top, but just even something like more of a glint in her eyes or something. I don't know. She was.
But that anklet though. God, how scandalous was an anklet in
That's
1944?
What I want to know. Was it like that sexy?
People just openly
that
masturbating when they see an anklet.
An anklet.
Yeah.
And that was another thing. Like, so it's supposed to. They show her coming down the stairs in these chunky heels, so you can really see that anklet a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like really sexy and like, oh my god, these women, her legs. I don't know about you, but I just heard the clomp, clomp, clomp of the shoes, and it wasn't like a slinky, sexy, come hither sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I just was like, wow, this really takes me out of it. But I don't know.
I
don't want to disparage it too much.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about an
it.
actress's like looks too much.
No, I don't
but
either.
But we have to. I mean, we see that he is lit up by this woman, but I just don't feel like she ever really.
Well, she more or less says she doesn't really care for him. But yeah, I know they kiss.
It's not a Gilda situation.
Yeah, no.
Joe Cotton or whoever is, just living his life, and then he runs. And I know he knew Gilda before, but like he runs into Gilda, and the audience runs into Gilda, and we're like, oh my god,
right?
Like somebody's going to get shot at the end of this movie over this woman.
Yes.
I guess Mary Astor's it doesn't exactly set the screen on fire either. But anyway, we don't need to go through it. Let's rank your noir females. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
Number 10.
No, I don't want to do this.
How much money was on the line?
I think it was it only $50,000 or
that was going to turn into like
$100,000 or something like that?
Yeah, because I was like, it's something that else, and this is just the economy, but something else that doesn't really like translate as the money, because it's like, don't you understand? We could be thousandaires.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
$100,000 in 1944 money is $1.5 million today.
Yeah.
So that's
it's not
I
bad.
still feel like if you watch like A Perfect Murder, which is the remake of Dial M for Murder, that's the closest I can get us to like a real murder plot now. I bet bumping off Michael Douglas would have got them like $5 million, right, or like $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems, and maybe it being like kind of Penny Ante or not that huge of
kind of what I'm thinking.
An amount might be part of it.
Yeah. Here's what I want to know.
For this strapping man who only drinks bourbon and has pictures of boxers on the wall of his one-room apartment.
I know. Well, and then like their plan is like, I don't know how well, like, so supposedly we don't see them coming up with it, which is fine. I don't need to see that. But like, he like just strangles the husband in the car, which seems
he gets a carload or whatever from Godfather.
Right. So I'm like, okay, all right, fine, whatever. And then he plays the husband, and it's like, okay, this guy who's noticeably taller. And that was actually a really great scene. That was probably one of my favorite scenes, was when because he goes to the back of the train. What is it called? Where it's like open air
observation car.
The observation car, and he's gonna jump off with. Oh, he's the husband had broken his leg, and so he has crutches. So that makes it more convincing. They're hoping. So he, he's dressed like him and has the crutches and everything. And he was hoping he was alone so he could do it right away. Well, there was a guy there. She's like, crap, I got to get rid of him. And this guy's like really chatty, really friendly. And he eventually like leaves because he tells them he wants to smoke cigars. And this guy offers to get him his cigars. So then he jumps. But Keyes, investigating this,
tracks that guy down.
He tracks that guy down, brings him into the office, and is talking to him. And while he's talking to him, asking him questions about the man he saw on the train, and he's like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure it's not him. I didn't get a good look at his face." Like, Neff is standing right behind him.
Yeah.
It was great though. And then he,
but it led to nothing because the guy didn't recognize him, and then he disappears from the film, and it doesn't matter.
A double take, and like you thought that he knew it. Yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, it's just it's a fun character, but I don't know. You want to? I didn't feel like there was. There was a very low ramping up to the point where they shot each other. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying he has to then go and stalk Mr. Norton. I can't remember the guy's name, but the Oregon guy. I'm not saying he has to like stalk and like kill him and the bodies start piling up.
Right.
But it's basically like he's worried about that. Boy, he has to have a lot of drive-in beers to deal with this.
That was so funny. I'd never seen anything like that before.
And then there's the side story with, Lola,
yes,
the guy's daughter,
right?
Who I think that actress was really good.
She was really good.
And she was only in like a couple movies,
okay,
and then just stopped acting. But and then Johnny Stompanato, her boyfriend or whatever it is,
yeah, that
just never really popped.
No.
And so it's like, and then he realizes, oh no, she's doing this to me. And then they meet at the store and look while they're shopping for soap, and it's not so romantic anymore. And then they just shoot each other. It just doesn't I'm glad it wasn't too long, but I didn't really feel. I'll tell you, like The Lady from Shanghai is a noir by Orson Welles, and it is not a fantastic film.
Okay,
but it's got a ton of character, and it's got. Both in its presentation and in the characters. Like, there are characters that are sort of over the top. They're cruel. Orson Welles is doing just an impenetrable Irish accent. And you just, you want to see these characters bounce off of each other.
Yeah. The ending's
kind
very
of like The Maltese Falcon, where it's like, let's get these kids in a room. Let's get Elisha Cook Jr. and everybody into one office and just watch them bounce off the walls.
Well, and that's what a really good noir is, right?
Not always. Well, sometimes you're driving to an address and then you realize, oh, there's nothing at this address. You got me.
I know. But here's my question. So they're like, okay, we got to lay low for a while and pretend we don't know each other because they can't see each other. They can't connect it.
Sorry, honey, we can't not have sex anymore. We have to not have sex.
Right. But, what was the plan? It seems like they planned the murder.
They're going to have to leave their lives. You can't just have the lady who got the indemnity, the award, suddenly date the guy who sold the policy.
And it
That's
doesn't
impossible.
seem like they talked about it at all. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? Are they going to have aliases? What are they going to be? What is their life going to look like? I don't know. Maybe that's not that interesting, but it
is.
Okay.
Those are the things that press them to do this.
Right.
But instead, he's just kind of horny for that anklet, and she's like, all right. And then later she's like, I hate my husband. I hate him. Yeah. And he's like, okay, baby, well, we got to do it.
Well, and then
straight down the line.
Lola comes to him and is basically, she's upset because she feels like something is fishy with her father's death, understandably. And she tells him about how when her mother died, the nurse she had pneumonia or something like that. And the nurse was supposed to be watching her, and she didn't have any blankets on. And all the windows were open, and she was, very ill. And she
skip to the end.
The nurse was what's her name? Same character.
Lady girl.
Oh, I can't remember her name.
Phyllis.
Yeah, it was Phyllis. So Phyllis killed her mom. Phyllis killed her dad. And it's like, what does Neff think is going to happen? Even if they do get together, she's going to get bored of him.
But he's a sucker. He's the classic noir.
I know, that's right.
The classic noir hero.
I mean, he even feels like he's the sucker at the end, I think.
You like The Third Man?
Yeah, I do like The Third Man.
I don't know why. I just keep going back to Orson Welles movies, but as I was watching this, I just kept thinking of like other noir movies that I liked more.
Well, I guess that kind of shows how maybe it's not really taking
Listen
your
to
interest.
Me. Listen.
Yeah.
I do this every show.
Mm-hmm.
Remake Double Indemnity.
Whoa.
Now this is why. Listen. Because remake the greatest film noir of all time. At the time, and I bet that they had to pull things back a lot, this movie made people uncomfortable because there was a lot of things going on. You had an affair going on. You had a wife conspiring with, another guy to kill her husband, and there's a lot of things that I'm sure that they had to be careful about. Mm-hmm. There is that when you talk about how like we don't see him die, I was fine with that. I like the fact that we put the camera on Barbara Stanwyck, and it's the most alive that we've seen her in this film.
Yeah, that's true.
She's like getting off of this guy getting killed.
Yeah,
as much as Barbara Stanwyck can show us, and or is allowed to show us at the time. But what if we could do all that stuff in a era that's not restricted in those ways,
right?
And where Disney owns all the theaters.
Oh my gosh!
Remake, do an animated Double Indemnity. Explain
weird.
to kids what insurance policies are, and no, I don't know. Billy Wilder's a little bitch, and I love him.
Who?
He was Billy Wilder. He was really mad because this got nominated for a ton of Oscars and won none.
Oh,
because there was another film up that year, and I don't remember what it is, and nobody does. I mean, because you can go on Wikipedia and see what won Best Picture, but it's just
not like one that you actually remember.
It did not really like survive its fame. But Billy Wilder was so mad at the guy, and he like tripped him on his way to the Oscar podium to accept his 8th award. Billy Wilder just kind of stuck his foot out and boop, tripped him.
Oh my god! Yeah. Are you serious?
Yeah. So
wow, that's a little crappy.
Yeah.
All right.
He was great. Anything else to say about Double Indemnity? How much indemnity can you take?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I think it's worth a watch. But like you were saying, not my favorite noir by any means. So.
Yeah, I wish I liked it more.
Yeah, I feel like we say that.
That's going to go around.
I feel like we say that a lot. Yeah, I know.
Want to talk about another movie that we should have liked more?
Yes.
What'd you pick?
I picked Moonlight.
2016's Moonlight.
Yes.
A film by Barry Jenkins, right?
Right.
Written and directed.
I'd heard
based on an autobiographical play.
Oh, it's an autobiographical play?
There's a play or a novel or something. Yeah.
Oh. Well, that kind of changes some things for me.
Really?
Well, maybe a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
So I picked this because I'd heard a lot about it. I kind of been meaning to watch it for a long time.
Face your fears.
But I was worried.
Even if fear doesn't apply, just face whatever it is that you're putting off. Listen, everyone within the sound of my voice, listen right now. That thing you've been waiting to do, do it.
Yeah.
Because in my own real life, I've experienced that, especially with this film. I didn't want to watch it because I thought it was going to be sad,
super depressing. Yeah.
Depressing.
Yeah.
And then it ended, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that was my reaction too.
And in the movie, I know it's like not entirely in his hands, but if the guy had just tried to be more gay. That's not what you're supposed to get from the movie. I'm getting off track here. But what I want to say is face your fears. I also want to say what happens in the film.
Yes.
Sharon is a 10-year-old boy who lives in Miami. He's a little black kid, and he has a tough life because his mom somehow devolves from some kind of nurse or medical profession job to being a super crackhead in about 10 minutes in the film. But anyway, you get the idea that things were bad before that.
Yeah.
He's being picked on. He's being chased home by bullies. One day he runs from the bullies, and he goes up in a trap. He goes up in an abandoned apartment building, and he's followed into the building by Mahershala Ali's character.
Yes.
Juan.
I think they say his name like twice.
Yeah, they don't say it very often. who basically is, we found out is a drug dealer, but he's the nicest drug dealer. And he's like, hey, kid, you don't want to be in here. There's crack all over or whatever. Why don't you tell me where you live? I'll take you home. Kid doesn't want to talk, doesn't say where he lives. Eventually he goes home with Juan to his apartment or house where Janelle Monáe's character is his girlfriend or whatever.
Yes.
And he stays over.
Teresa, I think is her name.
Okay.
I don't remember.
He stays overnight there. They bring him back the next day, and the mom's like, oh, he takes care of himself. You know, he doesn't need, you know, you're not supposed to know what to do. It's a tough life for him. Over the course of I'm going long. Sorry.
It's okay.
But if there's 3 chapters to this film with titles, so it's important. We must know everything that happens in them. He develops a relationship with Juan that's sort of like a big brother, little brother type relationship until a confrontation where Sharon he's been accused of being gay by his mom. Mm-hmm. He's a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And also Juan has to confess to him that he deals drugs. And we don't know what happens after that, but we can assume that things fall apart. We pick up maybe 5 or 6 years later when Sharon is a young kid in high school. He's getting picked on by other high school kids. He has a friend or an acquaintance who's
Kevin.
Kind of a loudmouth, dude. And just fast forward. Oh, things are worse with Mom. She's taking his money because he still hangs out with Teresa.
Yeah.
Although we don't see Juan. And Mom is fully junkified, and then eventually he and Kevin have a moment on the beach, a sort of sexual encounter.
Yes.
That just sort of ends, and that's the end of that. The big thing. The school bully gets Kevin to beat up Sharon. Sharon comes back the next day and just breaks a chair over the guy's head. He unfortunately lives. And Sharon is hauled away by the cops. End of chapter. We pick up chapter 3. Sharon is now basically, Mahershala Ali Jr.
Basically,
he is running the drugs.
Yeah.
And he's apparently just must eat steak and do push-ups all day because he's gigantic.
Yeah.
He gets a call from Kevin, who now Sharon lives in Atlanta. Kevin still lives in Florida.
Yes.
It says, I got a restaurant, and just thinking about, the old times in high school the other day, come down and see me if you want. So he goes to meet his mom, has something of a sort of catharsis with her. She's working and / staying at a rehab center.
Kind of seems like it.
Yeah. So he goes down, has dinner. Kevin cooks him dinner. They talk about the old times and who they are and what's happened between them. They go back to his apartment, and Sharon confesses to him that he's, still kind of gay, and he hasn't been with anybody, he hasn't dated anybody, nobody's really touched him, and they sort of embrace, in a sort of comforting way. Moonlight.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that happens.
I know.
That's a play, huh? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
See,
it feels
a play
like
can get away with that.
Yeah, a movie can't.
A movie can't get away with not having a third act.
Sometimes when you adapt things from the stage, right, you need to do things to make it more like a film.
I kind of said that, but in a cleverer way.
All right.
But you were absolutely correct, though. Well,
we've talked about a couple of different films that were based on plays, and I feel like a lot of them you can tell. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes it just reads like The Odd Couple, for example, like that.
Look, okay, but nobody expect or come back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean. Nobody. Those are plays. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're cool with that.
Okay.
And then if you have a little imagination, you can blow up Steel Magnolias and put it out on location and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't think anybody expects much from something like that. Mm-hmm. Not much. You just go, well, I get that it's just two guys yelling over meatloaf.
But yeah, I get what you're saying.
I'm saying that the structure of this story
just
seems like if I wrote, and this is an unproduced play, by the way, it was never produced anywhere.
Oh.
If I wrote an semi-autobiographical story about my life growing up as a gay teen in Black Florida, and it was tough for me, I think it might end with I don't know what the
where
future's
this
going to
is
hold.
going.
Yeah. And the emotional climax being somebody in the worst world imaginable shows him just a shred of tenderness. Like that is a result for him.
Yes.
But for a guy who's been watching this movie for 2 hours, I'd like to say something.
I know.
I'd like to see something more.
I agree with you.
When you see chapter titles in 2016,
Bad news.
We got trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This isn't like Quentin Tarantino.
No, it's not.
I don't know. I just look.
Go ahead.
Talk for 10 minutes. But first, I want to say Moonlight.
Well,
go ahead.
We know how you feel about Mood too.
That's how everybody should feel.
I really liked. I think my favorite part of this film was the first part.
Really, my favorite part was the last part.
Oh, really? Okay.
But please continue.
I just thought that the actor that played the
he was great.
Young kid
he was great.
Really, really good.
And it's hard
very
to
strong.
Be good without saying much.
Yeah, but yeah, he was fantastic.
He was really good.
And Mahershala Ali, am I saying that right?
Mahershala
Ali.
Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic. I wish he was in the film more. I do.
Look, people have won supporting Oscars for less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, I suppose.
Judi Dench was nominated. Did she win for Elizabeth? I can't remember. And she was the queen for like 6 minutes in that film. Shakespeare in Love.
Right. I don't know, but like, and I understand that character died. And it's not like,
did he?
Yeah, they were talking. Well, they insinuated that.
Who did?
Well, Janelle Monáe is talking about him like he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody, now I can't remember who. Somebody was, I think it was his mom, was like, "How's Teresa doing? I haven't seen her since the funeral." So I assume that means that he's dead.
Sure.
But they don't really go into that, which I thought was like, so I don't know if like, after he found out that he was a drug dealer or whatever, that their relationship just kind of fell apart, but he still sees Teresa. So
well, and plus people in that line of work tend to take long vacations in pajamas.
Yeah, well, that's
pajamas.
True too.
So,
yeah,
but I mean, I think I remember that funeral line. I think that's probably. I think you're probably right.
So, but I just kind of thought that maybe we would see him deal with it a little bit more. But I mean, I guess he does kind of in his own way because as an adult, he emulates him.
All right, you weren't really going anywhere, so I'm coming back in.
Oh, okay.
On a spectrum of Moonlight to Booksmart is how all semi-autobiographical movies in high school must now be rated. Right?
Oh my god!
You watch Booksmart, and we both watched that, and it's like gay people suffer no persecution for being gay, but also it's just it's still like a boner comedy just for ladies,
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what it is.
So it's very shallow and kind of one dimensional, and then there's this, which is like it's tough. You ever tried being gay? You ever tried being black and gay? Forget about it, right? Mm-hmm. But also kind of one-dimensional and just, do you know what I mean? I didn't feel any depth in this. All the characters are fairly one-dimensional. They all serve one purpose. Everything is super reductive. It's like the kid that picks on him. This kid is just the perfect asshole. Like there's no, I know that there are real life three-dimensional people that are much crueler than that kid was.
Yes.
But he was just a device. He had no reason to exist.
I felt that
in that
too.
film.
I felt that too.
I think that Barry Jenkins is not gay. I don't think that means that he can't write and direct a movie about a black or a gay kid who's black. But it's kind of like when a straight guy does say blue is the warmest color. Like, are you going to catch all the nuances? Are you going to create a world that really reflects, or even doesn't reflect enough, the struggles that somebody goes through? Because there's definitely it's tough to be a gay kid in high school. There is, I think that we take it for granted, but we don't explore. the idea that, black people not cool with gay people.
Well,
I think that's just sort of hangs over it. And I guess I don't know how we're going to explore it, but I'm just saying it just... Plus, do they all have perfect...
His mom definitely doesn't seem
Do they
cool
have perfect...
with it.
Yeah, does she have perfect gaydar? How do we know that this 10-year-old kid is gay?
Yeah, because kids pick on him. Like, he doesn't even know he's gay.
But everybody knows he's gay.
Yeah, I know. I think that they... Yeah.
I mean, I guess how else do we have it? There's a scene where he, gets into a wrestle fight with a friend.
It was Kevin. It was still Kevin. Same kid.
Kevin's there the whole time.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to get that he's really enjoying that wrestle fight? Because I had a lot of wrestle fights with my friends at that age.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
is this Boyhood or is it?
I think it's just Boyhood, but I think when you put that in this film, I think you can't.
Literally nothing else. Nothing else happens in the school scenes. They just exist for him to be tormented, and there are no other. I know it's a sparse movie based on a play, probably with a small cast, but there's no other, side characters. I guess the whole point is that he doesn't have anybody he can turn to, but there's no. It's just so sparsely drawn to get us somewhere. That's why I felt like the third part was the most developed part, because if most movies would have just started with him waking up in a bed.
Right.
Because he's getting a call about drugs or something. And then we would learn through dialogue or through flashbacks that there once was a guy who was very much like him, put the little crown on his dashboard, and had the do-rag in the fronts and everything like that he sort of emulates. But instead we just see it all played out. And once we got to the adult drama at the end, that was two people who both... We kind of think that Sharon wants to hook up with this guy.
Yeah,
but then we learn very early on that Kevin, has a son.
Yes.
Now that doesn't mean that he's not,
he's not gay,
but gay or bisexual. Yeah.
Right.
But it becomes clear that was not. He didn't, or probably didn't, call him because he wanted to hook up. And so we've got these two guys who are working at cross purposes, and it's that's a drama, not just a lady telling a kid that he's gay, not in those words. And then people are like, that's rough. That's rough. You know what I mean? It's just compare this to, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but compare this to sex education, for instance. Sex education has a different goal in entertaining you. It's trying to make you laugh, as well as provide drama.
Right.
But there are characters there that have more complicated connections to each other than,
oh boy,
this is the bully.
Yes.
I have a crush on this guy.
Yes.
I guess I still put Booksmart in the pretty one-dimensional kind of category, but I just didn't.
Sex education, the characters are really well drawn, and because of that, they're able to put them in these complex situations and just have the characters, the dialogue basically play out. Like, how would this character react to this character in this situation? And that makes it's interesting because you care about them, and even the quote unquote popular kids. They're kind of mean a lot of the time.
They're insecure.
But there's more to them.
Oh, that's another show.
Yeah, that is another show.
So yeah, I just don't I don't know.
I was disappointed.
It frustrated me
go ahead.
It frustrated me for those stated reasons.
What?
I didn't like how. And don't get me wrong, drugs are bad, okay? But that chapter ends with him he's like, do you sell drugs? And he's like, I can smell that, Oscar. Yes, I do. And so that's it. Apparently he can't be a mentor. You are morally bankrupt because you sell drugs. And I feel like, and once again, you can see through me like a jellyfish. I'm so white, but I feel like a lot of black media is way more morally complicated than that.
Yeah, I didn't really
He's just a bad person, and he must disappear now because he sells drugs. And because Sharon hits that kid over the head with a chair, he's taken away by cops, and that's the end of that. And we just assume, well, of course, he's a black kid, and he, committed a crime, so he will instantly be into juvie, he'll be in prison, and he'll come out, and now he has failed in his life, and so he is the morally corrupt drug dealer. And it's like, that is just so one-dimensional
but you
from a moral perspective.
But you said this is autobiographical, or at least semi-autobiographical. You said that, right?
I don't know the guy's life, but the guy's life is very symmetrical, isn't it? Hey, did Kevin ever apologize for ruining Sharon's life?
He did. He didn't exactly say sorry for ruining your life.
Because it sounds like this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't remember him saying that.
Well, he's like, I'm
this is
sorry
so
about
crazy.
what happened, man. Blah, blah, blah. But he didn't really go into detail about it.
Movies are too important to be in the hands of Oscar voters.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They see something like this, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I don't know how much it cost. And why is that important? Just because, I'm saying this is a small independent film, and I think it would really shine being recognized as that. Why it's... And don't get me wrong, I love Mahershala Ali. I think that he's done a lot of great performances. This is okay. He's just kind of like, hey, little man, what's going on? Oscar. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think this is necessarily an Oscar performance from him. I think that it's a movie that's fine, but has been aggrandized, way beyond its station. And it reminds me of Crash. It reminds me of Green Book, another movie that Mahershala Ali was in and had a great performance in.
Yeah, right.
But maybe the movie's not so great.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, what if real movies about real things that happen won Oscars instead of whatever the Oscar voters just light on?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about like why. If this is based on this is autobiographical, then my opinion is different. But I don't like that. Like I think you can be a parent and be a bad parent, or be an absent parent and not be on drugs. And I think that you thought it was cliched?
I thought there was a lot of cliched stuff in this. In fact, it was so cliched that I started writing down things on my notes that I was predicting was going to happen.
And they happened.
But I might be a little racist because they didn't happen. And I'm glad they didn't.
Well,
but there are so many things that I thought, okay, at this beat in the after school special, this will happen. And that thing didn't happen, mostly because they just cut away and skipped forward 10 years.
Well, I hated that, he got arrested by the cops,
Well, this is just... But he has to get arrested to be the disillusioned young man that he will become.
Yeah.
When all he has to do is go... All right, why'd you do it, Chiron? And he'd be like, well, because 4 guys jumped me and I've got 35 witnesses.
Right.
So can we see them?
Right.
He's out on probation. Fine.
Right.
But instead he goes inside and, he learns to be a real criminal, like happens in real life. And they got that part right.
Yeah, I wish that the ending would have been different, too.
Ending?
I know, I'm glad that he was able to open up and connect with Kevin, and that they had a moment with each other. But I would have liked more of a catharsis, some sort of is this who I am? Am I comfortable in my being myself? Who am I? What is my life going to look like moving on? We've been following this character since he was 10 years old. Give us some sort of idea of where his life is headed.
Nowhere. There are no counselors in the horrible school that he goes to.
Yeah, good point.
Clearly nobody is paying attention to whether the kids are beating each other up.
Yeah.
And it's weird because...
But the security guard comes and helps him at the end of that.
Well, yeah, they've got a security guard.
But you know what's weird, though?
What?
The very next day, he comes back to school, and that's when he hits the kid over the head with a chair. But he's walking in... And you know who passes him? The security guard who helped him. Okay. Why would you have that guy pass him and not be like, hey, man, how are you?
Because they had him for another day.
but not even acknowledge, what happened the day before?
No, and it's, again, the sort of, lightly painted flats that are the backdrop of this movie. There is... I think it's good. There's an absence of parental figures, and I think that's good. That goes to what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they have a couple scenes in a science lab or a science classroom, and the science teacher seems like he's really on his stuff because he's teaching. Because I've been to schools.
Yeah.
Man, I've been in the trenches. I won't go too far because there isn't much to tell. But I, did teaching practicum in an inner city school, and it was chaos.
Yeah.
And it's not the kid's fault. It's partially the teacher's fault, but it's a failure of an institution. And wherever they are in Miami, this school seems all right.
Yeah, right.
The teacher's like teaching him like real science and stuff, and then he's like, all right, give me an answer about this. Hey, pay attention. And then the one kid, throws 4 or 5 gay slurs at the other kid, and then he's like, hey, knock that off, and he sends him to the principal or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like, where are characters like that? Because they can't exist. If this is a vacuum, then why is there a character like that? But apparently there are no counselors. There's nobody to work with the kid. There's nobody to... And look, that's a reality in a lot of schools.
That's true.
And there are a lot of cracks for people to fall through. But I felt like the movie just played on pre-existing tropes of urbanity in films, where we just go, oh yeah, he fell through. Now he's a criminal, or like, oh, this guy's selling drugs and he's got his corner boy, and we're just but then now the kid knows that he sells drugs, and it's like, yes, I sell drugs, and now he has to, and he just gets up and walks head down out of the movie.
I know.
He knocks over a Klieg light, and he just goes off set. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Clearly, that it wasn't important to them to get deeper than that. But
what did you think?
It's tough to do drama if you don't have a realized world.
Yeah.
Are you Brecht?
Right.
Am I supposed to see the flats and things like that?
Well, like he goes on kind of like this little adventure when he's like in high school. Like he doesn't want to go home because bad things happen when he goes home. And he was going to go see Teresa, but then he gets harassed by the bully on his way there. So he decides he's going to go somewhere else. But it seemed like he didn't know where he was going. He's like going on the train, and like then he's like sleeping in the train station, and then somehow he like ends up on the beach, and that's how he runs into Kevin. Like, what are the odds of him running into Kevin? And like, it didn't seem like that encounter was planned. Like that meetup was planned.
Low, and it wasn't. But that was a formative moment for him.
No,
in his
it definitely
childhood.
was.
We have moments like that.
True.
And when you look back, you say, how convenient, wasn't it, that I ran into that girl at the ice cream place? Things like that
Things
happen.
like that do happen.
See, we were talking about this before. And I guess I do this too, but maybe it sounds better. When we let you run long enough, you start just like, and what's the deal? The moon's so stupid. It should be called sunlight. Your criticisms become kind of inane. I thought this movie should have been 1 minute longer, by the way.
Why?
I know, I'm just trying to come up with an inane criticism. I don't think this guy is... I know he did Beale Street, which... Slap me on the hand. I haven't seen. I should probably see.
No, I haven't either.
But this was like one of his first, if not his first, like movie, and I think it shows.
Okay. Yeah.
And the same goes for the screenwriting. I just feel like this is the work of an inexperienced screenwriter director who had a real sense of he knew he wanted it to be blue. The full name of the play is Moonlight Makes Black Boys Look Blue.
Oh, okay.
But he ran with that.
Yeah.
And there are certain points where I was like, why are we looking at this? Like when Kevin makes him the meal.
Yeah.
He really makes that meal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why are we watching this guy make this meal?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I mean, you could say that it's like, well, it shows that, Kevin is making this meal meticulously because he's going to make it good for this guy that he cares about.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, when Kevin just came back into this movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, maybe that's how they tell us that he really cares, but then the scene plays out and he's like, so what's going on with you? He doesn't really know anything about him. And then he learns that he's into drugs, or he's selling drugs, and he's like, oh boy, you're selling drugs, oh boy.
Right.
And I don't feel like he is another person that we're tracking, but then suddenly we're watching him make this sumptuous, Cuban meal, and I'm like, why are we doing this? Why doesn't he just come back out with the meal?
Why are we following
him at
that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I think what you're saying is right. They want to show that he cares.
But also it's just something to like make this 2 hours. It's just like, wow, and then we'll watch him.
Right. I mean, that's
Kevin
true.
goes back to the kitchen, interior kitchen. He gets the beans out.
Yeah.
He looks to see if Sharon has left or not. Then he cooks the adobo chicken or whatever. And I mean, we could just have him just come back out with the food.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with uncertainty. I'm comfortable with it.
I am too.
And part two is I understand that. I think that this is very accurate in the way that I'm sure a lot of young men and women who are gay or are questioning their sexuality when they're young get very used to being withdrawn, not saying anything, sleeping on mass transit platforms, avoiding people because they just don't know how to deal with other people and how to express themselves and how they fit in. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, does that make for a compelling main character?
I mean,
if the guy says less lines than anybody else in the movie, and there's no VO and I can't read his mind, how am I supposed to feel, about him?
I get your point. Maybe
and 1 minute longer.
Maybe they should have done VO for this movie.
No. That was the right choice. Never do VO.
I noticed and appreciated there's a lot of you don't see this in a lot of American films. I feel like there is a lot of silence in this movie.
Right.
A lot of
but the
room to breathe.
Yes, but but that time, that room that you leave yourself, you put moments in where we track what the character's doing. That's my point. I don't know why it's coming down to this like plate of food, but if Kevin goes in the kitchen, we stay with Sharon and we see him. There's one scene where it's after he criticizes him for the drugs and he goes off to help a customer and Sharon looks at the door and I guess we're supposed to feel like I could walk out that door. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to walk out that door, but it's not framed in a way that communicates that.
No, you're right.
We should see him kind of look over his shoulder and be like, am I going to do this? Or like,
I can still leave now.
Am I going to get on with this guy?
Right.
Or but instead it's just, I get that he's closed off, but that doesn't help an audience.
Yeah, right.
Moonlight. All right. Anything else?
I mean, I'm glad we finally watched it. It wasn't as depressing as I was anticipating it was going to be.
Face your demons.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
White movie watchers.
What?
And everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. A good one next week?
Let's hope.
We'll do our best.
Yes.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week talking about, or we're back whenever we come back, I guess.
Yeah.
Talking about other movies. And until then, stay healthy, stay safe.